now it's time to get the work off the bed. You can transfer all the stitches to one bed and do a few rows and bind off either with a Tricofit or by hand, or do a bunch of waste yarn and just leave it, or take it off the bed and then cast off by hand, or weave the end through all the open loops. I have decided to cast off using the Tricofit, and I'm going to cast off in the round to show you guys what this looks like, how to do it in the round, and what the Tricofit stitches actually look like. So I'm going to do it in a contrast yarn. So we'll put it on the Tricofit underneath the brush. Oop, let me see if we'll see it. Yeah, underneath the brush, around, yarn on the right side of the decker needle, and then feed the eyelet in, snap it in. Okay, these should be lined up. Okay, now we take the yarn and wrap it around one stitch. Leave one stitch empty and then wrap it around the next open stitch. So I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. Now, oops, it came off. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this lever needs to be down. It was up right now. So I was guiding it along here and it was pushing those needles up. So put the decker needle in that empty space. Hit this lever to have it snap into the bed. Hit this left one up to engage the needles on the left. Needles on the left go up. Right now the lever on the right is down so that the needles will come back down and the work will come off the needles. So when we get to the very end of the side, I'm going to push that up for a few needles so that it doesn't just come off the work doesn't just come off the bed and unravel. Okay, so you don't want to press down on the Tricofit and jam it. You kind of want to just kind of hover your hand a little bit above it. Don't lean on it, and then just wind it in a circle. Try to do it smoothly. Mine kind of skips sometimes, and we'll see about trying to get this done smoothly. Just go to the end. Okay, and then put that up. Okay, and then line up the marks, and then go ahead and take it off the bed. Okay, so now what we want to do is take this loop that's on the needle. Let's get a little slack. Take this loop that's on this last needle, if we can get to it, and then put it on the needle on the back bed. You can rack it to line up. You don't have to. I mean, this is just, you know, a sample, so whatever is fine. Okay, so I'm putting both those levers down, rotating it around to the back bed. The yarn is on this side, that side of the decker needle. I am going to put the decker needle above the first empty spot. Release. Oh, that's lined up again. These are down. I may not be lined up because it's not dropping down properly. Maybe some of these needles. Okay, there we go. It's dropping down, and then I snapped into place on the last needle. I have to move it over one. Okay, I've snapped into place one needle over. Okay, then I am going to hit the lever on the side it's going towards up. The other one's still down. And then I'm going to rotate again. Okay, I'm going to hit the lever on the right up, so it's not going to pull the work off the bed. And keep going. Okay, end it up, down, down, release, lift off. Snip the yarn after a few inches. Resecure the yarn. And then knit it again with it and pull the yarn all the way through. Okay, let's go ahead and take the work off the bed. Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, and here we have our chain stitch bind off. So you can see that the additional yarn is all up here. So you can see these stitches below. You know, you can see how much extra space you think you might need, making them bigger or smaller. I personally don't think you need to make them any bigger. If anything, smaller. It looks kind of puffy. If you're doing cast off on some different machines that don't do a chain stitch like this, they just loop the existing stitches over one another, then you would have to make the last row bigger. But I think you don't have to make the last row bigger. I didn't make it bigger. What makes this stretchy or not stretchy is the tension here. I have it on the tension mast. If you take it off the tension mast and do it manually or let it be loose, you can make this pretty loose. But I don't think there's a way you can make this any tighter than this. So if you're doing some work and you actually wanted the cast on tighter, I think this is as tight as you can go here. So you can see here I have a few skips. On the front bed it all looks okay. It looks like one stitch in each of these chains. I don't have any touching each other, but in the back I did, and I also felt like a rough spot a few times. So it happened here, where these two are together, and over here, and here. So that's completely okay for just a swatch, but I would look into try to fine-tune my Tricofit if I was going to use this for the finished edge of work. Okay, and so we can see all our different techniques here. We started with 180. You can see the back. It's in a bird's eye type pattern. And this is 181. So this is the one where we were only doing the background color on the back. So what that means is you are doing a bunch of stitches all on one bed with the orange strippers. And that means that you're not necessarily knitting correctly sometimes. So this happened to fall off right here. This can be, you can use the hook tool to hook that back up and then secure it with some more yarn to duplicate stitch it in. But that's actually, you know, it's going to be one of the pitfalls of doing long stretches with on one bed with the orange strippers. Ideally, you would use black strippers in that situation where you're doing more than one stitch in a row on each bed. You should use black, ideally. You can get away with it if you're doing 2 and 2. Sometimes you can often get away with it that way. But if you're doing 3 or more, sometimes you're going to have some problems with that one stitch that's not going across beds. So that was 181, 182. And you can also see the height and length relative shape here by seeing how stretched this is relative to the width. So this one's even more stretched. This is taller. So here we get, it's a little distorted. That's 182. This was the pinstripes on the back. You can also see the stretch patterns. You can see when you have 2 stitches in a row of one color, it'll act different depending on whether the stripe in the back is the contrast or the same color. So here it splits and here it doesn't because the background pinstripe color is different. So you have this ribbing-ish pattern. So 81 to 183. Here you go. You can see this is even more extended and it's looser for the stitch. It's a little bit wider as well, but it's still distorted. This one is pretty equal in length and height, actually. Bird's eye on the back, nice dense pattern, and it has a ribbing effect, but it's all in the same rows. And then the next one is long stitches. So you see these taller V's and it's definitely more distorted. And then this one is the one you want to use to maximize the width of the work. But you see it's also airier. It's also airier. But this is going to give you the biggest piece. It also is, to me, is a little harder to read the pattern, so you have to have it pretty distinct, not to have it really fine, a fine pattern where you need to see a lot of intricate detail. Because of all this color mixing, it's really harder to see what is actually going on there. So you want big swaths of color to say, like, this really is this dark color all in this area. And then this one is actually my favorite for blankets. It's pretty even in height and width. It is a little taller, but it's still pretty even. And nice stretch, and not too stretchy and not really distorted. You can see the pattern. And then this one, again, it's a little bigger. So I think that's 1/8. Let's count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 188. So you should have a 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern on the back. So 2, 1, color 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, alternating. So that's what should be going on there. So you have 3 stitches for every 2 on the front. So it's a little bit lengthened, as opposed to long stitch here, which you have 2 stitches on the back for every 1 on the front. 189. This is 2, 1, 2, 1, all the same color. So it's like the same ratio. This would be about the same size. You just have a little different look on the back. $190. And this one has this texture, and this is a thicker yarn, so it came out definitely with more of a texture. It's slightly elongated. And here's our last one. Pinstriping, this also has that ribbing effect, but it's definitely stretchier. So this would be the pinstripes with tucks as opposed to no tucks. So that's the difference. And definitely longer than wide. Yeah. But there are all the built-in techniques, and you can do any combination. So basically, you have in the front, you're either going to do 1 pass or 2 passes per pattern row. These are all doing 2 passes per pattern row. It's 176 or 179. Well, I think it's 179 for 1 pass per pattern row. Don't quote me on that.